Hi everyone, welcome to TestMu 2024. I'm Navya M and I'll be your host for this session. Hope you're having a great day so far and enjoying what TestMu has to offer. It is great to see so many of you here excited about the latest in testing and automation. It's been 20 years since Selenium was introduced and is now an essential part of web automation. This session will dive into how Selenium helps tester work smarter, no matter what programming language they want to use. Pallavi Sharma, our speaker for this session, is a true expert in test automation with over 20 years of experience under her belt. She's done it all, from being an individual contributor and technical product manager to a scrum master and coach. Pallavi is also the founder of 5 Elements Learning and Mosaic Words and has written 4 Selenium books. She's deeply involved in Selenium project, especially in documentation, and is a frequent speaker at international conferences. Beyond her work, Pallavi enjoys writing, reading, traveling, and nature conservation. She's passionate about giving back to society and believes in power of kindness. Today, Pallavi will guide us through the basics of Selenium, showing us how to get started with web automation. Let's give her a warm welcome. Over to you, Pallavi.
Hey everyone, a very warm welcome to the TestMu conference 2024 by Lambda Test. Thank you so much, Navya, for such a generous introduction. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone, and good morning from wherever you all are joining. Hi, my name is Pallavi, and I am going to be the presenter of the session for today. I hope you all are able to hear me and see the slides. You can quickly give a thumbs up if you all are able to. Okay, great. So let's begin then. So the topic for today's talk is Selenium beyond the nitty-gritty of programming language. Um, uh, a small point. We will be taking the question and answers in the end of the session. But during the session, if you have a question which you would want to ask, you can feel free to put it on chat, but we will take it up during the QA time. Thank you for understanding. Okay, so before we begin, small introduction about me. Well, Navya has stated everything what I would have wanted to say. So I'm Pallavi. I'm a founder at 5 Elements Learning and Mosaic Words. I have around close to 18 years of experience in the field of automation testing, primarily dealing with open source solutions. I am a committer at Selenium project. Um, I have published 4 books on Selenium, and I have recently become a part of the Google Women Tech Makers as an ambassador. So I'm a little happy about it. Wanted to share. You can scan the QR code, and that's my Linktree URL if you want to connect me over LinkedIn or X platform, as you would like to. So, what's the agenda for today's session? So, we would want to talk about what is Selenium, what are the different components and features of Selenium. We would then be delving into the basics of web browser automation. So, leaving the programming language aspects out of the talk for some time, we will definitely come to it, but leaving it, parking it for some time, trying to understand where different components come into picture. We will then be exploring, spending some time on the Selenium client bindings. We will talk about the ecosystem which you would like to have with you based on a programming language of your choice. We will have a brief overview of the different frameworks available on Selenium per programming language, and we will then open the forum for Q&A. So a little icebreaker there. Well, it's always said that we want 100% automation, and since Stone Age to computer age to now AI age, if I can say that, we are just trying to automate anything and everything around us. And sometimes we have failed miserably for that. from having small minor incidents in our daily life to a general outrage. Uh, CrowdStrike being a recent example where we had to, undergo the manual work and leave the computer aside. So, having said that, I believe firmly that a human would be relevant. So, with that thought, let's begin. So, what is Selenium? Selenium automates web browser, and that's it. What we do with that power is entirely up to us. Again, what is Selenium? Selenium is an umbrella project for various tools and libraries that automate the browser. It remotely controls the browser instances and emulates user action which user would want to perform on the browser, like clicking an element, fetching a text, and other similar things. At the core, Selenium is a user agent library, which means that it is a software responsible for retrieving and facilitating end user interaction. The main guiding principle of the Selenium project is to support a common interface for all major browsers. I will repeat that statement. The guiding principle of the Selenium project is to support a common interface for all major web browsers. And how is it able to achieve it? It is able to achieve it with the help of WebDriver standard, which is a work in progress W3 standard. These are some of the important links. I'll be sharing these slides after the talk. So you can, if you're already aware, that's great. But if not, then you can explore these links and you can come to know about the W3 standards, the WebDriver standards, and the current WebDriver BID standards, which is currently under development. On the top of it, what we are aware by default, the Selenium project has three important projects which the Selenium group supports, which is the Selenium IDE, Selenium WebDriver, and Selenium Grid. IDE is basically an extension at Chrome and Firefox, which helps you to record and play back your scripts. WebDriver, which is right now the focus of this talk, helps us to create robust browser based automation depending upon the client binding of the programming language of your choice. Grid helps us distribute these scripts and tests to run in parallel on different machines and browser combination. But that is not all. Selenium project is like a mothership, and there are a lot of other projects in form of community projects as well, and other tools and technologies which become part of the Selenium ecosystem, which could be different frameworks, which could be other different solutions. For example, APM is part of Selenium project, Nightwatch, WebDriver IO, and other similar frameworks which we will see in some time briefly. What has made Selenium popular for the last 2 decades? For last 20 years, an open source solution is one of the de facto choices to automate your browser. And the power lies in its rich feature set, which helps us to remain versatile while trying to automate our browser. So it supports multiple browser, different programming languages, and multiple operating systems. And how is it able to do it? It is able to do it with the help of the standard, which is the WebDriver standard. To understand any particular tool and concept, it's important to know a brief history about it. History always helps. History is good to know. So the first milestone of Selenium happened in 2004 when Jason Huggin first coded JavaScript test runner. So we need to be informed in here that the first version of Selenium was a JavaScript test runner. We see a lot of tools in the market now available which are JavaScript based and have become quite popular. It's great. So Selenium first version was a JavaScript test runner. From then it moved on to the different concepts and you can see that it kept on evolving. Any open source project, if you have to evaluate for your product, for your implementation, it is always good to know that the work is being done. And in the Selenium project from 2004 to now we are into 24, uh, there has been continuous work, improvements, and updates, and a lot of different people joining in, coming together to help us achieve what we have today. Paul Hammett and Pat Lightbody, they basically created RC and Grid respectively. We then had Selenium IDE built by Shania Kastani for Firefox. And then other people came on this project. In 2007, Simon Stewart joined the Selenium project as WebDriver and Selenium joined hand together. And in 2016, we got Selenium 3 and WebDriver API was released, which became the standard to automate your web browser. In 2021, Selenium 4 got released, which changed the communication protocol to W3C, which is HTTP based. And in 2023, we had a community project called as WebDriver Manager, becoming integral part of Selenium. And we now call Selenium comes with batteries, which basically helps you manage your browsers and drivers without worrying about it. And we are in 2024, celebrating 20 years of Selenium. Again, my question is, so what is Selenium? Selenium is a browser automation library which is based on a WebDriver standard and is currently in progress, collaborating with other browser vendors and tools out there to develop the next standard for web browser automation, which is the WebDriver BiDi standard. The Selenium project and the different projects under the Selenium can be found in this GitHub repository. Please spend some time exploring it. Okay. To understand the basics of web browser automation, we need to first be aware what actually is a web browser. How do we define a web application? What is a web driver? What are client bindings? What is a web page? The HTML behind it, the elements, the locators. And how do we automate it all? So, what is a web browser? A web browser is a software application which allows us to explore the World Wide Web. It acts as an interface between the server and the end user. The information is shared over the HTTP protocol and your HTML page is rendered. A lot of works goes when we just request a URL on the browser, which is basically depicted by this diagram. And there are some links in here if you are interested in learning more about how actually a web browser functions, what all goes behind the scene. You can go ahead and explore it. And what is important in here is to understand with the web browser that the purpose of the web browser across different devices, across different kinds of web browser is to provide your end user a seamless experience of your web application. It will only happen when the browsers are following a standard and your web applications are also conforming to a standard. And what is that standard? That standard is laid down by the W3C Consortium. Okay, World Wide Web Consortium lays down the standard and guidelines for the browsers, for the application, and the tool trying to automate it, which is the WebDriver standard. So, what is WebDriver? WebDriver is a programmatic interface, a protocol which allows us to control and interact with the web browser, which is responsible to control the actual web browser like a end user would. This is important to understand because there are some tools out there in the market in the automation aspects which do not drive the browser or interact with the browser like your end user. This becomes crucial because when you are trying to perform an end to end testing, you would like to be assured that the product which you are testing is as your end user would be using it. So that's why these concepts and this information and knowledge is good to have. Earlier from Selenium 2 and prior, not prior, Selenium 2 was WebDriver. Sorry about that. Between Selenium 2 to 3, the web drivers, the Chrome driver, which is implemented on the WebDriver standard, Firefox driver, Edge driver, they were supposed to be, or they were basically taken care by the Selenium project. But Selenium 3 onwards, the browsers, vendors provide these web drivers, these interfaces, respective interfaces, so Selenium can talk to them and tools similar like Selenium, again based on the WebDriver standard. What are client bindings? Client bindings refer to the libraries or the APIs which are provided by Selenium in different programming languages so that you are not bound when you are using Selenium choosing which programming language you should use. What is your reason to choose a programming language when you're trying to implement Selenium? The reason should be that you should know that language. That's all. That's enough. If you know the language using which you would like to implement Selenium, the most important and the only reason should be that you are aware of it, you have help of it, and your team is capable of it. And the other ecosystem tools and components which you will need to build that test automation project, which is a development project, should be accessible to you. That should be your only reason. Now, Selenium client bindings are available to us in Java, C Sharp, Python, Ruby, JavaScript, and Kotlin. Kotlin is based on Java bindings. I would briefly show you these client bindings. For that, I would need to switch my screen. I hope it becomes visible to you. The purpose to show you these client bindings is only one, to help you understand that the client bindings in Java would be a jar file, in Ruby it would be a gem, in Python it would be a module, and so on and so forth. In all these programming languages, you will have different packages, classes, interfaces, components, which are basically built to help you automate the browser, interact with elements, perform different actions which an end user would. For example, we have a package in Java called as OpenQA.Selenium, which has a lot of classes and interfaces. One of the most common being the WebDriver, which basically handles the browser. You will have a similar package in your .NET, in your Ruby implementation, in your Python implementation. What would differ is basically the idiomatic expressions of the programming language in which that particular implementation is done. That's all. So if you are aware, or if in case you have learned using Selenium with a particular programming language, that's all right. If you have understood the concepts well, then you will be able to um, use same concepts and achieve your automation objective. The reason I wanted to share that was that as a coach, I do get a lot of queries where people have learned Selenium in one language and they now want to take training to learn Selenium in a different programming language. That ideally, if you have learned it right, should not be needed. The concepts remain same. The classes, interfaces, packages, they're just word changes, okay? Like the syntax will change from one programming language to another. Your concepts do not disappear. Now we are going to see I'll just show you three common client bindings in Java. The reason to show you is to understand that when we are trying to implement Selenium or learn Selenium, being aware of these APIs of different programming languages should be the starting point to pick it up. Okay. So the WebDriver API is basically the API which will have your Browsers, everything dealing with browser. You want to launch a browser, you want to close a browser, you want to navigate to different elements, you want to find an element. All browser related activities are taken care by the WebDriver, which is an interface with respect to Java. Okay. So we have all these implementing classes like Chrome driver, Edge driver. They're supposed to implement the WebDriver and perform on their browser the action we are sending them. In the same way, we have web element, which again is an interface. And it basically helps all these different functions to help you interact with the HTML element of your web page, whether it is a text, a form element, a button, or a link. And the famous locators, the by class, using all these different ways which are defined again inside this class, you can locate an element of your interest. So once we become aware that when we are trying to automate an application, the application also needs to be built. And building an application with respect to the W3 standards is a great way to ensure that when you are trying to automate the application, again, using a tool which conforms to the Web3 standards, which is your web driver, it would become easy and better for you. Lot of tools are already made available as a W3 standard, which will help you validate your application, whether it conforms to a Web W3 standard or not. So there are different tools which helps you finding accessibility, broken links, whether the CSS is good or not, and so on and so forth. You can explore and find these tools on the W3 website and use them for your work. So if we look at all these three concepts which we have discussed, we have WebDriver, plus some supporting classes, which talks to the browser driver, the Chrome driver or the Firefox driver, which in turn is talking to a browser, all based on the W3C protocol, which is HTTP based. And this request and response basically is us sending the command to them and them sending the response back to us. We will take a short breather here, and since I try and practice and sometimes preach about environment, just a request: plant a tree. We are all aware of the various environmental havocs which are being caused around us. There is no planet B. I'm not sure when Elon Musk will get to Mars, but until that happens, let's leave a better world for us and our progenes. Okay, so web application is an application which is stored on a remote server and is delivered to us through the user browser. Browser could be any device. It could be your web, it could be your mobile. Your application experience needs to be seamless. And I have stressed it enough now as to why and how it can be done. A web page is a document which is written in an HTML, and it can include media and scripts which can be accessed using the web browser. A web page is a part of your web application. Collection of web pages make your website. A web page has many elements. HTML, the markup language, which is used to create. There is CSS, there could be JavaScripts, there could be content, and a lot of other things. When we are trying to automate a web page, I will come down to a page now, not an application. We need to be aware of the HTML of that page. An HTML element will have an opening tag, a closing tag, and attributes. It is using these attributes and the different commands of Selenium from the by class, we are able to identify them. So we have ID, we create XPaths, CSS, we have link text, and other similar attributes which we can use to identify the element of interest and then perform action on it. If our web application is conforming to the W3 standards, every element should have an ID. Now, this is a sample web application I have taken. The URL is in here, and I will quickly share it in the chat as well, which we are looking at right now. And you can use this application to explore, to to practice your Selenium concepts around. So in any web application, uh, when you're trying to automate it, we have two aspects: creation and execution. Your creation broadly should take care of your browser management, element identification, and the actions you want to perform on an element. When we are doing it for testing, one more aspect gets added, which is verifying it. Execution could be local and could be set up on grid, could be remote, could be done on cloud, like using Lambda Test Cloud. Any sample script workflow should have a problem statement. A problem statement will include you would want to launch an application, you would want to perform some actions on it, verify it, and then you would like to close your browser. So, what I'm going to right now show to you is three very simple steps I have taken, and I will try to show you in different programming languages. And the reason to show you this is so that you are able to relate that in different programming languages, when we want to perform three simple actions, which is one, we want to open the Chrome browser, sorry, using the Chrome driver, and we want to launch the application with a given URL. We want to find an element using the link text, and we want to perform a click operation on it, and then we would want to close it. Based upon which programming language you are using, you need to import those libraries for yourself. Again, this simple script is going to be built over as you introduce different test automation components to it. Your unit test framework, synchronization, parameterization, taking care of your objects, building a modular code, having an automation architecture in place. But in at the simplest form, all your code will have similar components. Okay, this is what you should be aware of. These all will perform same action. The syntax is changing because the programming language is changing. That's all is different. Okay, I'll just quickly go to the slide we were on. So this is a GitHub link. I'll share it if you, it's there in the presentation slides, so that you can explore and see it. So as I spoke about while showing you the slides, that your test automation components will get added to this basic concept, this basic skeleton which I have showed you, and with help of that you have your complete project in place. So these are the components which get added. You would want to have something to manage your objects, to take care of the synchronization, to take care of data, exception handling, reports and logs, etc. A generic example of how your test automation framework would look like can be seen in this diagram. So you have your application under test, which could be running on different platforms. You need to take care of your artifacts, which is your data, your object, external functions, generic functions. You will have some common components, some utility libraries, and the CI/CD pipeline you would want to integrate. Everything then become the part of your, again, development project. Now, when you want to pick up implementing Selenium using a particular programming language, you need to have the different components in place based upon the language you are picking. Now, this will change. You will have a particular IDE which supports that language. A unit testing tool will be required because Selenium is not a test automation tool. Selenium is a browser automation library. So you will need, for example, JUnit and TestNG for Java, NUnit, MS Test for C Sharp, Mocha, Jest for JavaScript, and so on and so forth. You need to have a build management component in place so as to manage all those dependencies. When using Selenium for testing, you should select a particular programming language using which you would want to implement it. You should have that project management tool based upon that language which it supports in place. Your automation framework architecture has to be in place. Selection of your unit test tool will change based upon your programming language. Your reporting tool, logging tool will change. You then set up your grid so that you can execute your CI/CD pipeline and then you are good to go. There are various frameworks which are available over Selenium. In yesterday's talk by Diego, he has explored a lot of them. And there is another very good talk by Diego in the Browser Automation Conference. If you get a chance, please have a look at it. So, based upon the language using which you want to implement Selenium, there is actually no need to set up your own framework. There are a lot of great open source projects out there in available to us, and which gives us this boilerplate framework, and on that you can build your work. So, for example, in Java, you have Selenite, you have Robot Framework, you have Atata, you have Water, and so on and so forth. Nightwatch in JavaScript, WebDriver IO. Okay, so we will now open the topic for Q&A. We will spend 5 minutes here because after this I have three, four slides which I would want to talk about. So thank you for listening so far. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'll try my best to answer.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Pallavi. That was a
In a way.
great session, very
Thanks.
thorough and very explained very beautifully, actually. I
Thank you.
thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope
Thank you.
the viewers have enjoyed the session as well. I certainly got to learn a lot. Um,
Yeah.
Having said,
Thanks to the audience, I got a lot of emoji responses.
yes, yes, yes.
Helped me. So thank you for
Yeah,
all who were
thank you, audience, for
very
being very
responsive.
interactive
Thank you so
and
much.
encouraging us. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. So yeah, let's get down to the questions then. So we do have quite a few questions, and I know you need a couple of minutes later at the end as well. So
Sure. Yeah.
let's just skip on to the questions. So the
Yeah.
first one we have is, what do you think are the strong points of Selenium compared to the other competitors like Cypress and Playwright? And what do you think, where do you think basically Selenium lags?
The strong point is that Selenium is based upon Selenium is the WebDriver standard, the
Right.
de facto standard for your web browser automation.
Right.
Uh, that's unbeatable.
Yeah, yeah,
There are
pretty
no
much.
weak points.
You've
Biased.
got the answer, people. Selenium is the way to go. So the next one we had quite a few questions on this, so I'll show one of this. How can you integrate Selenium test into a continuous CI/CD pipeline, basically?
So
What
basically,
yeah,
what you would be integrating is your, for example, you're using Jenkins. So you
right.
have your Maven project, and
Right.
that is what you would be integrating. It's not at the test level, it is at your build level, which you will be integrating at your CI/CD pipeline.
Hmm. Great. So we'll take one more. So if someone wants to contribute to Selenium, where one should start? What are the prerequisites for this project? So is there any
Yeah.
prerequisites?
The next two, three slides are basically on that.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So hang on,
I'll,
people.
yeah.
You will get the answer to that question. So let's take one more question before I'll give you time to talk more about Selenium.
Sure.
What are the key considerations for ensuring that Selenium tests comply with data privacy regulations such as GDPR when dealing with sensitive data?
Okay, I'm not the right person to answer this question, but with the little knowledge I have, uh, it has got nothing to do with your Selenium test. It has to
Right.
do with how you are wanting to protect your data, which you are passing to your Selenium test. So Selenium is only going to automate your browser. Rest everything you need to take care of.
Great.
That's
Yes.
what I think is the answer. But if someone knows a better answer for it, please feel free to add on.
No, I think you're good. I think that's what it is. So yeah, I think we can move on, and you can share your screen again,
Okay,
and
thank you.
talk
Thanks.
to us more about Selenium and
Sure.
whatever you have to share.
Sure. Thank you for the questions you guys have asked. You all have asked. Thank you so much for that. And so 20 years of Selenium, right? That's no small feat. That's big, actually. It's pretty big. Being an open source solution coming this far, I strongly believe that a lot of it goes to the community which is behind Selenium, taking care of it. The users which are from last 20 years implementing Selenium, using Selenium for their projects. You can check Selenium posts and blogs. The downloads reaches in millions per month, and that's huge. And a very strong thank you to the sponsors of Selenium as well, the backers of Selenium, the different organizations who have open source, you know. What do you call it, open source departments in their
Yes.
organizations, and there are
Contributors,
some very
basically.
active people working on the project.
Yes. Yes.
So when you look at Selenium as a project from people perspective, you have project leadership committee, which right now we have Marit, we have Manoj, we have Diego, we have David Burns, and Marcus Merrill. We then have the technical leadership committee, where again there are a lot of names: Pooja, Sriharsha, Diego, Titus, and um, I know the GitHub name, PPODJE. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name. We then have committers to Selenium project. Like I am one of the committers to the project. You become a committer after a certain number of contributions. We then have users, sponsors, and you can contribute to the project by becoming a volunteer. So volunteering on Selenium conferences, volunteering for the project, all that is very much needed by an open source project. Okay. For a committer, you can commit to the core Selenium. Okay. You can commit to the website and docs. So what got me started was I wanted to see Selenium as the de facto website itself, a de facto place where people who are wanting to find answers to Selenium should be able to come here. We then have translators, because Selenium documentation is just not in English. It is created in different languages as well. The more the better. And then there is Docker component. So yeah, 20 years to Selenium.
Yeah.
I'm just grateful for this project. It has helped me earn my bread and butter, and I'm sure for a lot of
A
people out
lot of
there.
people. Yes. Yes. Definitely.
So, how you can contribute to Selenium? You can contribute to Selenium by using Selenium, by participating in the events, by help improve the Selenium website and documentation, by helping fix the issue or even raise the issue, raise a pull request. You can help by answering questions the community asks on the Slack channel, on the Google support group, and then there is also monetary support, which you can provide. Okay, with that, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for your time, for spending this evening, morning, afternoon, whatever your time zone with me. Thank you, Navya. And
Thank you,
thank you,
Pallavi.
Lambda Test, for this platform. Thank you so much. Grateful to everyone. Sparsh, Kavya, Asad, thank you so much.
It was a pleasure having you, Pallavi. It was a
Thanks.
great session. I hope everyone enjoyed this session, and thank you for the wonderful info on the Selenium community as well, in me. And I think many will find that useful as well. So thank you for that.
Sure.
And if anyone want to rewatch this entire session, you will be able to watch it at our AirMeet conference page, or you can find it on our YouTube after the end of the conference. So do go check it out. And thank you and have a good day, guys.
Thank you so much, Navya. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.